So that is very interesting. But how did you get started looking into this? What moved you in this particular direction? Did you just know ahead of time this is what I want to do, or did you just kind of?
It took a while. I want to say it took a while. I started taking an interest in immigration as a topic. Again, growing up in southern Italy, with the, we would hear very often about those boats coming in from North Africa.
Yeah.
But we also witnessed, I think we also witnessed the growing sense of intolerance, especially at the level of mainstream media, towards migration, towards immigrants, concern for the economy, and very similar things to what you would hear, I guess, here in that sense, that sort of hostility to immigration. And I studied a bit history of migration between Mediterranean Europe, Turkey, and Italy in particular, and the United States when I was in college, and then realized that, looking at the history was fascinating but not quite enough, and that I was more interested in the present day.
Yeah.
And but going back to what we were just talking about, a bit of it was an unexpected finding. So I was meeting people and chit-chatting with them about the chores they did in the house, and one of the first questions I generally ask them would be, "What's your job? So what do you actually do?"
Yeah.
And that is where all of this came out. Now, to be honest, when I first started the research, I had a sense that elderly care was a growing labor market for migrant women, but I was not expecting it to be the overwhelming form of employment that low-wage migrant women, at least, are finding in Italian cities. I was surprised, but out of there's no worker I spoke to had not been in elderly care, at least for a while. So say out of 4 jobs, out of 4 past jobs, at least 1 or 2 were in elderly care.
I wonder, is there that kind of market here? If there is, I am completely unaware of it.
I think what is driving, there's a few things going on. I think that are particular, not to Italy, but to a few European countries that have a similar welfare mode. Italy, Austria, Germany, and at least these 3. Which is absolute lack of communities for still active seniors or nursing homes.
Okay.
What the Italian government in particular does is, once a state physician or a local physician has declared you as semi-independent for old age or for a chronic disease or illness, you become eligible for a state subsidy of about 500 euros to either hire someone to come and take care of you, or to help a daughter-in-law, or a family member make up for lost wages. Now, this provision is definitely not perfect. I don't think that's remotely a large enough subsidy. Hell, I mean, it's below living wage, it's below the minimum wage even for part-time domestic house cleaners. But it's something. There are some pros to be gained from it. I mean, namely, especially elderly people get to, age in their homes.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Familiar faces around it. But then again, it's also creating a market for migrant domestic workers and personal assistants. I only have hearsay and anecdotal news about what's going on here, but I do know that migrant workers are in the business of assistance and to seniors and to the elderly, even here.
Mm-hmm.
I am guessing that the modality or the place this assistance happens in might be a bit different.
Yeah, it's probably
Yeah,
a
it's probably,
facility of
even
some
within,
sort.
perhaps within the facilities, as it happens in the UK, for example,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that most of the workers in communities for selective seniors are migrant-born.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm not aware of any case of live-in assistance in a family home here.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure it exists, but it's far out of my personal sphere of experience. You know, I don't know anybody who has got that kind of money that hires somebody to like live in and take care of anybody or do anything like that. I imagine it happens. There's plenty of wealthy people around. I don't hang out with them. So I just don't like them. No, but that's really interesting. So is it? Trying to think of how to ask this question, because you were talking earlier also about recycling being something that's kind of migrant labor is involved with that in a different sense, not just in the sense you're talking about here, but like kind of in general. And I wasn't sure what you meant by that, or did I understand you the wrong way?
I think migrant labor in general is becoming more and more involved in recycling and sustainable activities. There are some studies in the UK, for example, describing the working conditions and the experience of, I believe, Polish migrant men in recycling plants. And then there's definitely and I think that's something that might be also worth looking into. Champaign-Urbana, for example, both in recycling plants and perhaps also in trash collection companies. It's a curiosity. I'll ask me in a couple of months and I might have an answer for that.
'Cause I was going to say around here, it seems it's more that just most low-wage jobs have been taken over by immigrant people around here. And it's not just that specific industry or this specific industry. It's just across the board. If you go into the kitchen of a restaurant, everybody that works there is, is an immigrant. You go to a construction site, everybody that's doing the labor is an immigrant.
Definitely, definitely. But I think perhaps an understated aspect of this labor market for migrants is that although we don't really acknowledge it, we're also putting the burdens of sustainable practices on them.
Well, yeah, probably so, because there's not a lot of money in it.
No.
There's money to be made. That's the weird thing about capitalism.
Yeah.
There's money to be made everywhere, but only if you play it the right way. So if you can, identify a need and then come up with a cheap enough labor force to provide it, you can make a lot of money. Nobody else is making any money.
Yeah.
It's just you,
Yeah.
because you have set things up and you have the the know-how or the connections or whatever to exploit it. It's a pretty messed up system.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
I don't know. It's funny on the show somehow. Over and over and over, we keep coming back to some of these same themes, and this is one of them. Is just like the system itself is really not very good.
No.
And
No,
then so a
it's not.
lot of things come from that. It's like cascades down from horrible things are happening up here, and then it's hurting everybody all the way down.
Yeah.
And this is just
Yeah.
one way that's happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we can look at citizenship and immigration policies, or just everyday small things like taking care of recyclables.
So are you a big green kind of person? Are you very reuse, recycle, repurpose sort of?
I try
in
to
your life?
be. I know it's a bit of an illusion because my family are recycling as hard as we can.
Yeah.
At home I suspect it won't make that huge of a difference when you have large industries or corporations that kind of get away with pretty much everything. So I think in terms of keeping up a nice neighborhood, it's important to recycle. Keeping up a nice campus, it's important to recycle. But I'm not particularly optimistic that that is ultimately what's going to contribute to environmental devastation.
What,
At least.
lack of recycling isn't?
No, I want to say small scale recycling, that like what you can do at a household level. It's a good thing to do. I do it, and I advocate for it, definitely. But I'm afraid that without stricter controls on waste and pollution on large industries, I don't know how big of a difference it's going to make ultimately, if not in terms of how pretty a neighborhood is, you know.
I think that's probably the question that everyone and anyone who's been interested in social justice issues at any point has asked themselves, is like, what, I mean, I'm just one person.
Yeah.
How can I make a difference? I'm not really,
Yeah.
I'm not, there's so much bad going on. I did this one good thing. What difference does it make? I can't change it. But if we all make one little bit of good difference, that's a lot. It's cumulative. If everybody does one
Yeah.
good thing,
I like to think it is. I am still concerned about sheer. When it comes to waste, for example,
Yeah.
I'm still concerned about sheer volume. So if a large supermarket, for example, should not recycle properly, then, for example, my entire housing complex's efforts, and it's at least 10 buildings with, I want to say, at least 8 apartments in it.
Yeah.
That's kind of gonna even itself out,
Oh, it does. Yeah.
So-
I really think that one person doing bad things can do more damage than 10 people trying to do good things can fix.
But this
Unfortunately.
But this doesn't. I don't think this should let us off the hook. If
No.
that's what you were trying to say. I mean, if that's what you were asking, I don't
No,
think
no.
this lets us off the hook, and this doesn't let us off the hook of voting. And I don't
Yeah.
know if people here apparently can call up their Congress people. That was a very new thing to me.
Yeah, no, they can. They can. You're not probably going to talk to them, but you'll
Okay.
talk to somebody. Yeah, no, I'm not trying to excuse anybody. I'm just saying that it is the question that we all wrestle with. It's like, day after day, you feel like I'm like going uphill in the sand. I'm not getting anywhere because I'm trying and trying and trying to do all these good things, but I'm just me by myself, And what can I do? Why is that so loud? Keep hitting this and it sounds like, anyway, sorry. Yeah. No, maybe that's just my own sense of, every now and then I get depressed and I'm like, well, what good is it doing? I'm trying, but
Champaign-Urbana has pretty good groups and communities
Mhm.
for advocacy and social justice. I want to
Yeah.
say it's one of the things I like the most about being here.
Really?
Yeah, the community's good.
That's good.
In general,
like that.
I found the community to be good, whether it's graduate students on campus,
Uh-huh.
and or just being friends with colleagues in the sociology department or neighborhoods, and you have an independent media center.
We do.
You do. I mean, and there are always a ton of initiatives going on campus, but also a lot outside. So I think that's one of the heartening things. No.
Yeah, it's heartening. I think I meant it, the comment more in the sense that I think at some point any of us has struggled with that question. It's like, what good am I doing, really, in the big picture?
Yeah.
Am I really making a difference? And it's probably because it's most of what saves the world is lonely stuff. It's stuff that you do by yourself that no one ever sees. It's the thing you throw away instead of dumping on the ground. It's the thing you recycle instead of just throwing it away. It's all these little things. It's the lights you turn off, not the ones you turn on. All those things kind of add up, but nobody sees them. You do it by yourself. And it just feels like, well, what was the point of that? I kind of was liking that light being on. I sort of like it when the thermostat's up at a higher temperature and I don't have to wear a sweater inside. I think you're sort of at war with yourself in a way a lot of the time, because one of the reasons things are so bad is because it's so much more comfortable to do things the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier when everything comes in a package and you just throw it away and somebody takes it away and you don't see it anymore. You don't think about it. You're done. You got your little fresh item. You didn't end up using it. Well, throw it away. Don't worry about it. Do you compost? There's a
Do
question.
I compost? Occasionally.
Really? Okay.
Occasionally.
I used to. I have to admit that I don't do it very much anymore. At one point I got it down to where my garbage consisted of one, those little grocery plastic bags, one of those a week. That was all I threw away.
Wow.
And now it's a little more than that because there are less things well, let me put it this way. I used to have a way to recycle a lot of different things. It is harder for me to do that. So now all I can really recycle is plastic. That's the only way.
Yeah.
There used to be a system here in town where you could take your stuff and drop it off. As far as I know, there isn't anymore.
Oh.
So you have to work through some company and they take it away and all this stuff. And so whereas I used to I'd go drop the glass off, I'd drop the plastic off, I'd drop all this stuff off. Now I don't have that ability and I don't know what to do about that. So more gets thrown away and I feel bad about it. But
yeah, I mean, university housing has cardboard, paper, and plastic. So we have to figure out what we want to do with compost and glass.
Well, you probably don't have a good place to compost, really.
Well, it depends on what you're talking about because, things like you don't always need a compost bin to be able to compost. It's actually an informant from Romania told me quite a few times. He was like, yeah, I understand that people have to recycle in the city, but I grew up in a farm. There's leftover food, you give it to the animals, or you just use it then and there, right?
That's true, but there's apple cores and there's bits and pieces that add up to something.
Yeah.
And I have a garden, and so it's very easy for me to just take it and dump it out there, and actually most of it goes away with the squirrels and there's a number of animals.
The squirrels are very helpful.
They're good composters. They're good recyclers. It just goes away. It's like magic. You leave it out. And I have 2 dogs, so they'll eat anything that isn't pretty much completely gone. So between the dogs and the squirrels and the raccoons and stuff, it's just not a lot of it gets left. I don't get much compost.
Well, that's great. That's great.
I don't know. It's a silly thing to say, but no. I mean, it's an interesting topic because I don't think a lot of people think about it very much, and it's frustrating. You do all this stuff at home, and then you go out to eat in a restaurant, and you see just mountains of food just getting dumped.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know that there's a whole lot more going on in the kitchen, but you don't see it because it's invisible labor. Yeah.
Exactly. So you said you came from Italy, right?
I do, yeah.
So you're sort of an immigrant in a way.
Yep.
Kind of.
Yep.
I mean, you may not intend to stay here, but you're here right now.
Yeah, I'm here right now. I've been here for a while.
So what's that experience like? Do you feel displaced? Do you feel out of place? Do you feel...
I think I've been here long enough to kind of be pretty comfortable with who I am and where I am now. It was, I did feel displacement, cultural shock, weather-related horror pretty extensively for my first year and a half, I want to say. Oh, come on. I mean, we went from the snowstorm to the tornado sirens.
Yeah.
But I kept asking myself, how did humankind end up here? Oh, my God.
Yeah, well, was it last winter? It was like snow, just mountains of snow everywhere and super cold?
That was a couple of years ago, and I think my first year here was one when we had a big enough snowstorm that U of I actually shut down for a day.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so that was my first year here.
Oh, boy. What did I do? I should have stayed home.
And I'd never been to this part of the Midwest before. I mean, I'd been to Chicago. I always fly in through Chicago, but
Mhm.
I'd never been to Central Illinois before, and it really took me a while to learn to get a read on people.
Yeah. And no landmarks, right?
And no landmarks.
That's what
Yes.
people tell me. It's like they come here and it's like, how do you find your way around? It's like, well, what do you
Yeah.
mean? Like, you can't tell. There's nothing. You can look in any direction and there's nothing there. There's buildings
Yeah.
and trees and stuff, but there's no mountains over here or ocean or, there's no
Yeah.
no big eternal landmarks that give you a sense of orientation and place. There's just nothing. Yeah, I feel that, and
Mhm.
I've lived here for years and years, and it's just you don't know where you are at any. It could be anywhere. It's very strange. I don't like
Pretty
it
much.
here at all, honestly. Landscape-wise, I don't like it here at all. It's just awful.
No, yeah. Yeah, the landscape is a little, is what it is.
It is. That's
Um,
true.
Yeah. I guess the towns are nice. Once.
Well, they're
I
not
guess I
bad.
started enjoying it maybe in my second year and a half year.
For
The first
smallish
one
towns.
was rough.
They're not too bad.
No, I mean, the bus system is perfect, and there are so many international students
Mhm.
on campus. Like, there's not many Italians. In fact, actually, when people ask me where I'm from, I tend to say I'm Italian, or I'm actually Italian, because apparently if I just say I'm Italian, they think I'm from New Jersey or Brooklyn.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
But there are quite a few services available for international students,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
yeah,
People
that does
always think
exist.
I'm Italian for some reason.
Oh, you could be. You could pass off for Italian if you wanted.
I'm Mexican. How do I? Well, it's
Well-
the Z in my last name. It's
Mm.
Garza.
That's true.
And for some reason, they hear Z and they go, "Oh, you're Italian, right?" Yeah.
Well, I am mistaken for Latina, specifically Mexican or Polish.
I get like Armenian and some of those countries around there a lot. Like I walk into some places and people are like, "Oh, you're like my cousin so and so," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. Really, I'm Mexican. I'm nothing like your cousin from Armenia. Really, it's just weird. I'm ambiguously ethnic, as I guess is how you would describe me, so that no one can ever figure out what I am by looking at me. It's very strange, which has
Yeah.
been an interesting life because it's hard for people to be prejudiced against me because they can't figure out what I am. So they don't know if they don't
Yeah.
like me.
Yeah, I mean, unless you, unless, I mean, it's people who just don't like who has a non-white Midwestern American accent, and so
Mhm.
everyone else apparently is evil or undesirable. Yeah, no, I
That's
get what
true.
you're
Yeah,
saying.
you do have a non-white Midwestern accent.
Yeah.
But they can't place it. I don't know that I would be able to place it as Italian, just if I heard you talk, unless you were going mangia or something like that. And then
You should listen to me watch a football match. I meant soccer.
oh yeah,
Yes.
you start swearing in Italian or something.
Neapolitan.
Oh, Neapolitan. Oh,
Yes.
How is that? How is that different?
It's a dialect. It's, I mean, roughly among Italians, we can tell who's speaking English with an accent from somewhere in the south versus who must be from somewhere in the north.
I see. See, I would not know that difference.
Honestly, I'm not sure I would be particularly good at telling accents in the U.S. apart, besides... No
You can
exceptions.
tell a Southern accent, right?
Hmm?
You can tell a Southern accent.
A little bit.
Y'all.
Oh, okay,
Everybody
y'all.
say
Yeah,
y'all.
yeah,
Hey,
the y'all.
y'all.
Yeah.
How's it going there? Talking like this, talk like that. That's Southern accent here in the U.S. Something like that, yeah. That's interesting. We're like almost to the end of the hour, so I'm
Okay.
just sort of filling time
All
with
right.
random stuff. 'Cause if we start saying anything interesting, then we won't want to stop. So,
Okay.
Is there anything
All
else that
right.
you wanted to communicate to the world that you didn't get a chance to say because I was distracting you?
No, nothing in particular that comes to mind at the moment, or nothing that I could say in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So no, absolutely, it was a pleasure.
Well, I find what you're doing really interesting because
Thank you.
on Wednesdays I do a show it's called the 11th Indian Show, and it's about indigenous issues. I do it with my ex, who is Lakota Native American, and one of the things that we've talked about a lot is the difference between like Western historical traditions where it's like everything's in a book and everybody cites somebody else and says, okay, well, so-and-so in their book said this, going all the way back. And the native traditions where it's oral tradition, it's just storytelling.
Yeah.
So I've always found ethnography very interesting because it relies on storytelling. It relies on people's impressions and memories and how they experience things. And you get, I think it's a much richer substantive history than you get from a book where someone is trying to be objective and trying to stand back and go, well, what really happened? It wasn't that cold, and there weren't that many killed, and blah blah blah. You're kind of like looking at it like in the grand scheme of things, it's like this. But like when you're there, it's real, it's vibrant, it's it's visceral. You are experiencing this thing, and so those are the stories that you're getting from people. That's like, this is what it's really like to be me in this situation at this time. And I found from doing any limited ethnographic work that it's so much more alive.
It is an incredibly rich experience. I think it definitely changed me a bit and who I am. And just maybe to end on a funny note, when I came back from my fieldwork, so I was gone for 6 months in a row, and I was trying, to pack in as many interviews as I possibly could, because, I was working on a clock.
Yeah.
And when I came back, one of the first things I told to my advisors when I met with them was, I think I have ethnographic fieldwork hangover.
Oh, wow. Ethnographic fieldwork hangover. Well, what's that like?
I guess emotional overload, or just having heard all of these stories that are so intense, so rich, so many of them so bittersweet, so much sadness in some of them. So some of my informants were, just to give you a sense, were refugees who had just gotten out of the camp in Lampedusa.
Yeah.
So those stories were extremely meaningful and extremely full of resistance yet tragic histories, I want to say. And so all these feelings of having listened to all those stories and recorded all those stories to the best of one's ability, but not quite at the time yet to unpack them or go over them, it feels pretty much like a hangover.
Yeah, I can imagine that it would, because it's so, you can't help but empathize a bit.
Of course.
And on one hand, you're thrilled by, human resilience, that just people can bounce back from so many things. Like, I can't believe you picked yourself up and kept going after that. That's amazing, But on the other hand, I can't believe that you had to do that.
Yeah,
that
like I can't believe you had to go through that.
Yeah, it's just, so it's like you're being tugged. Your heart is going up and down and up and down. And it just, that must be exhausting. Did you sleep for like 6 months? And
no, I actually, I was TAing for, I TA'd for
you didn't
a semester, and just, for a while just simply, enjoyed being around my students and teaching, and that would kind of help me clear up my mind for to go back to the research.
Yeah. So is a book coming out of this, or this is just for
in a couple of years? No, I mean, my dissertation should be completed, hopefully, and ready to defend in May. But
that's very
fingers
soon.
crossed. Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time out.
No. Thank you for interviewing me. This is really a nice conversation.
I really appreciate it.
No.
Thank you and feel free to come back if you ever have some time.